The International Conference of School Principals 2014 had a gathering of about 250 principal delegates drawn from all over the country and abroad. The conference was a full 2-day event where on 16th and 17th October, serious thought was given to issues under the umbrella of the topic Leading 21st Century Schools. This continues to be the focus of the conferences with emphasis on different facets of school leadership spectrum. The ICSP 2014 focused on crucial emerging trends in leading 21st century school. Some of the principals who attended the first edition of this conference in New Delhi would remember that Principals Forum was formally launched by Dr. Shashi Tharoor, the then Honorable Minister of State, HRD. In ICSP 2014, the inaugural speech was delivered by Mr. Om Pathak, Chairman Principals Forum. While welcoming the delegates on the third edition of the Principals Conference, Mr. Pathak said that school principals' annual conferences are unique in their configuration and alignment because these conferences are of the principals, by the principals, and for the principals. He exhorted the educationists to join hands with the government and be the harbinger of change. Keynote address was delivered by Mr. Sushil Tripathi, former Secretary Education, Government of India. He emphasized the need for having representation of the school leaders at the time of the formulation of policies. He said that the policy makers will be able to make pragmatic policies only and only when they seriously take the opinion of people working on ground. The inaugural session concluded with the vote of thanks proposed by the principal delegate, Mr. Rajesh Shetri, Principal International Public School, Multanpura, Biaura. This was followed by a very enriching plenary session 1. The theme was 21st Century School Education, Global Perspectives. This session was moderated by Professor Pant and the panelists were Mr. Rajaram Sharma, Director, Central Institute of Educational Technology, NCERT, Ms. Ritika Paruk, Assistant Director, Schools India, British Council, Dr. Robin Atfield, Associate Director, National Council for Teaching and Leadership, UK, Mr. Arun Kumar Khaitan, Chief Executive Officer, Sports Education Development of India Limited, Dr. Binuman Vasudevan Nair as the Principal Delegate, and Mrs. Sanyogita Sharma, Principal Manav Rachna International School, Faridabad, was the marshal of the session. Professor M.M. Pant highlighted that technology and skill-based education should be made an integral part of education, and for attaining this ideal, the teachers should be equipped to teach the skills. He also exhorted the audience to inculcate in the students a spirit of questioning. Vote of thanks was delivered by Dr. Binuman Vasudevan Nair, Principal Indian Community School, Salmiya, Kuwait. Post-lunch, the principal delegates were given a choice to choose any one of the issues for discussion. The issues that got the delegates thinking together were autonomy and accountability moving in tandem and inclusive education, each child matters. In parallel session 1, we had the moderator, Mr. Sushil Salwan, who is an advocate of the Supreme Court of India and is also the chairman, Salwan Education Trust. The panel included Dr. Robin Atfield, Associate Director, NCTL UK, Dr. Dheeraj Mehrotra, Educationist, Innovator, Soft Skill Trainer, Mrs. Dimple Anil, Educationist, Consultant Teacher City, and the Principal Delegate was Dr. Navdeep Jedka, Principal Love Fun School, Nokha. The school leaders were of the opinion that the sole purpose of education is to prepare the child for the journey of life. There are certain guidelines which act as restraints but are essential and impossible to avoid. The information must be used in a sensible and sensitive manner by the school leaders. Dr. Sushil Salwan believes that the principal is the Bible of the education system. The principal is accountable to all the stakeholders. It is the responsibility of the head of the institution to collaborate with everyone. Dr. Navdeep Jaidka delivered the vote of thanks. In parallel session 2, the theme was Inclusive Education, Each Child Matters. The session was headed by Dr. Jitendra Nagpal, Senior Consultant Psychiatrist, Moolchand Medcity and Director. The panelists were Mr. Shahid Siddiqui, former Member Parliament, Ms. Adil Newman, Head Business Development and Sales, Flow India, Mr. Vidhur Kaushik, MD Simova Sciences, Professor M.M. Pant, former Pro Vice Chancellor, IGNOU. Principal Delegate was Mrs. Priyanka Mehta, DPS GI Dasna. Dr. Jitendra Nagpal was of the opinion that each child is unique. The role of a teacher becomes more important as they have to create customized content for each child with the help of technology. Vocational guidance should be given to these children. He said, "We are living in an egalitarian society, so it becomes our social responsibility to make these special children successful individuals in their lives." On day 2, in plenary session 2, our topic was School-Based Assessment, What Beyond 100%. The session was jointly moderated by Mr. Pathak and Dr. Dheeraj Mehrotra. Panelists were Brigadier S.K. Tripathi, an eminent educationist, Dr. Suraj Prakash, a distinguished educationist, Mrs. Jyoti Gupta, Principal, Delhi Public School, Ghaziabad, Meerut Road. The principal delegate was Mr. Prem Kumar T., Principal, Indian Educational School, Kuwait, and Mrs. Seema Ramesh was the marshal, and she is the principal of Holy India School. The topic witnessed tremendous response and participation from the delegates. Mr. Pathak suggested that school leaders need to critically examine, discuss, and brainstorm the existing school-based assessment system. He reiterated that the 100% syndrome is very scary and felt that the teachers have also joined the race by being very liberal in their marking. He expressed his concern on the implications of schools' hysteria towards achieving 100% mark status in school-based assessments. Dr. Dheeraj Mehrotra emphasized on enhancing the quality of transaction inside the classroom. Plenary session 3, the topic was School Leadership Essential for Student Success. It was moderated by Dr. Sarvesh Naidu. He is School Director, Pathways, World School, Aravali. The panelists were Major General Retired Manmohan Singh, former MD, Army Welfare Education Society, Rita Wilson, an eminent educationist, Mr. Sameer Sampath, a distinguished educationist, Mrs. Sujata Chatterjee, Principal, Shri Bharati School, Kolkata, was the principal delegate, and the marshal of the session was Mrs. Elizabeth Nongthomban, Principal, Shishu Nishtha Niketan, Imphal. Dr. Sarvesh Naidu opined that students challenge the chalk and talk method as this is a generation which is growing up with gadgets. The new generation is highly tech savvy and is striving to outsmart and outthink the older generation. The older generation has to think like them to be able to connect with them. The new generation is very inquisitive and likes to do things themselves. He exhorted to the audience that we need to prepare the learners for the unknown world. Vote of thanks was delivered by Ms. Sujata Chatterjee. The grand finale to ICSP 2014 was the valedictory address by none other than Mr. Rajnath Singh, Honorable Home Minister, who enthralled the audience with words spoken from his heart. The teacher in him did the talking. he had a great interactive session with the school leaders. The Honorable Minister said, "A child is a unique talent and not an industrial product." He suggested that all the educationists should chalk out an educational plan comprising of practical suggestions contributed by those working at the grassroots level to bring about a significant change in the educational system of the country. Colonel Retired B.S. Bararia, Director Teacher City and convener of ICSP 2014, proposed the vote of thanks at the conclusion of two-day International Conference of School Principals held at PhD House, New Delhi.